Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 9 of the Natural Female Muscle podcast. Today, we are joined by Amy Richardson. Amy is an online coach, a PT, and natural figure athlete. Amy stepped on stage for the first time last year, where she won the Heart of England figure title, an absolutely incredible look at that show, and then also competed at the UKDFBA Finals, where she took home a top 4, which was also absolutely incredible, especially given the circumstances at that point, which we'll definitely come on to in the podcast. But after an incredible but challenging first season, Amy is also competing again this year. And I think, have you recently just started your prep?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Oh, amazing.
Saturday, yeah.
2 weeks into prep
2 weeks
now,
in.
which is very exciting. So I'm really looking forward to actually diving a little bit deeper into sort of Amy's background, because we've spoken a few times, but we've never really kind of gone into like what actually brought you into bodybuilding. So I'm really excited to chat about that today. So yeah, looking forward to the conversation. Obviously, just thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to go through it all. It's like nice to be here.
No, it's lovely. I mean, we were having a little bit of a conversation before we started recording. We were just talking about how the whole point of the podcast is so that everyone can share their different short stories and journeys, and how it's so helpful for other people to listen to so many different kind of like paths, because some of us take similar paths, but ultimately everything's going to be different with the way that we get into training and bodybuilding. So it's nice to just hear those different stories. So do you want to start by just giving us like a little bit of context into not even what just kind of got you into bodybuilding, but just training in general?
It's been years. Like when you look back at it, you're like, oh my God, it's actually like 10 years ago when I first started this. But yeah, it's so nice to have like I was saying about the other girls and like listen to their journeys and stuff, because I think a lot of bodybuilders have had like a previous background in some sort of like aesthetics or training or some sort of sport, whereas actually for myself it's literally just plain and boring. But it all started really like when I was in college and sort of like left college. I think I was about 16, so 2013 I've written down here, so a long time ago now when you really think about it. But yeah, when I first started a gym, it wasn't really like anything in particular. It was sort of like the bog standards, go in. I was doing like basic cardio bits. I had no idea what I was doing really. I think I was going more so because the boyfriend I had at the time in college when I was younger, he done sports at college. So I thought I had to go because he went as well. But yeah, from there, I wasn't in a great place when I first started my journey, and that's where it's kind of like evolved from. And I think in terms of the bodybuilding side of things, that's why I get quite emotional with like how far I've come and how well I'm doing now, because of where I started from. So I listened to your solo podcast the other day, and we've got a very similar like sort of background in terms of like relationship with food and things, and that's sort of where I first started. And it come off the back of me not being in the best of places with mental health and food. So it just grew from there really. And like I've written down between like 2015 and 2017, so I obviously we entered into the world of being 18, and like you can go out and drink, and because I wasn't in a fantastic place from the younger years and I didn't have great people around me really, I then actually developed quite a bad relationship with alcohol. And I literally went out at any chance I could. And I think at the time, like looking back at it now, the reason why I had that bad relationship with alcohol is because it does serve as an antidepressant. So it does take you away from like how you feel and normal life. But because I was so young, like I didn't consider the fact that I was using that as like a cover up for how I truly felt. So
it's crazy that though, because there's so many young people, and because it's considered like such a normal part of social life, that so many people don't actually consider like the deeper effects of that or why they're actually doing it. And it's so weird how now people more so ask like, why are you not doing that? And it's like, well, why aren't you asking somebody like why they do that, and maybe like how that's affecting them at that point
like
too.
where it stemmed from. And I think that's why like the like bodybuilding, like, it's not just competing and stuff like that, but bodybuilding's like lifestyle just fits me like to a T, because I don't drink anymore. And that's not because I like, you know, because of bodybuilding. I just don't enjoy it. And because it brings back like a part of me that I didn't like about myself.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, you know, it's considered when you're young, like, oh yeah, they're just young, they go out all the time. But when you look back at it, I was in such an unhealthy position, both mentally and physically, and it really wasn't serving any purpose. Like I was just going out at any chance. Like it was like every Tuesday night, every Friday night, every Saturday night. I still went to work. I don't know how I was doing it. And I was still like in college as well, doing like bits and bobs. So you just don't know how you live that life. And like looking back at now, how are you even surviving? Because I was like pretty much always hungover, not eating anything. So yeah, it wasn't, unfortunately it didn't have like a great background and where it first started. But yeah, I was sort of dibble dabbling into the gym. It wasn't really like, I didn't follow anything. I didn't like do anything in terms of following a program or anything. It wasn't until I met my boyfriend now, and it was like the start of 2017. And I think that then you then figure out what's going on, because you're then in a relationship with someone else, and you can see where your problems lie, and you know, things that you could potentially improve on. But he actually said to me like one time, he was like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to the gym and you're trying to like, you know, build muscle or like get better, etc. He said, but you're not eating anything. It's like, he sat me down and actually taught me about, he always uses this against me as well, and he will never let me he will never let me get over it. It's like, I taught you about macros. I taught you about calories and macros. So yeah, he actually taught me about that. And like, at the time, I think I said in one of my YouTube videos at that time, I was like, no, you're just trying to make me fat because you don't want to, you're just going to leave me and I'll be fat. But yeah, it was just trying to teach me about food and teach me like a little bit more about what I need to be able to actually get to where I want to be in the gym. But coming from that background of not being too great relationship with food, and in a relationship with like the gym in itself, like I didn't really understand what he was trying to teach me. And I think at the time it was like, you know, you see the people on Instagram, and I was trying to follow what they were doing, and then like someone else said something about calories and macros, and it wasn't till then I was like, oh, you're right, actually, like what you're trying to tell me, you're actually right. So I listened a little bit more and just sort of picked up from there. So that's where it sort of like developed from in the past. But yeah, from there, I started to be a little bit more consistent. I started to like actually enjoy going to the gym on a more consistent, like regular basis. And then started to see like a little bit more like improvement and development in like my physique a little bit more, because I was always coming from a very small background, because that was like the in thing when we were younger, wasn't it? It was like, you know, having to be the smallest version of yourself, but be super skinny, eat nothing. And that mixed with how my like true relationship with myself wasn't in like a very good place. So when I started to see a little bit of results, it's like, oh, this is working. I mean, I'm enjoying this now. And I think my confidence grew a little bit more, and from there it's sort of like I continued and carried on from that position. And then I done it was an inkling of a thought of potentially doing my PT course, and that was around 2018. And the reason why that came up is because I went into the gym one day and I saw this advertisement on the side, like a little leaflet, and they were looking for female PTs. And like part of me looked at it and I thought, oh, like that would be brilliant for you. Like not as a job, because I was, you know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that time. It was more so like, oh, I wonder if you did this, you might be able to educate yourself a little bit more on like nutrition and training, and get a better understanding about it all, and a bit more of like a bigger aspect. So I inquired with one of the PTs and I said, you know, like what do I need to do to like go further with this? Like, where do I go? What companies do I look at, and things like that? And they gave me a little bit of direction, and then from there I did a bit of like just a bit of research into like what companies did what and what they kind of provided. So I spoke with my boyfriend Joe and I said, like, what do you think about this? Like, should I do it? And he was like, absolutely. Like, why not? You know, you're not going to lose anything. Even if you just did the course for you, like, at least then you would like pick up a little bit more, like I said, like education and understanding around it all. So yeah, I did that for, it was like I went every other weekend to travel and do my PT course. And I finished that in July of 2018.
Were
And
you
then
still also at like college at this point as well, or?
no, I'd left college. So I was like 2018 was, so I was 20 in 2017. So I must have been like 21-ish,
Yeah.
22. So yeah, I'd left college. I was actually, my job at the time, I worked in a contact lens
Oh
factory.
wow.
I've done some random stuff. Like I have like weird backgrounds, but yeah, I used to work in Specsavers. And then from there I worked in a factory of contact lenses. So I was actually working there and I hated it. Like
Yeah.
I was working shift work. One week I did 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. and the week after that I did 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. and that was like week
Nice.
on, week off. So yeah, I was trying to fit the gym around that and things. So yeah, I alongside that job I started revising for the PT course.
Mm.
Um, and every other weekend I was traveling to go like in person. So that, yeah, I did end up completing that. And at the
Amazing.
time, I wasn't sure whether I should go and do PT or carry on what I was doing because I was like comfortable in that job. I knew that what I was going to get paid each
Yeah.
week. And it was like that initial jump of, again, like the massive insecurities that I had in myself. Like, you are so silly to even think that you could do well in this. But the reason why it stemmed from is, one, to learn and educate myself more on the training side of things, and two, because I hated myself so badly and hated the gym, and walking into a gym just made me feel sick. And the thought of other people feeling like that it just upset me. So that's where my passion always comes from, because I know how people feel when new clients come to me and I know how they feel. So I just wanted to be able to help other people in that way and be like, it's not that bad, it's not that scary, and you can do well, like you can get to where you want to be, sort of thing. So that's where the passion, like my passion, lies with PT, and that's kind of where it all come from, really. Like, first initial side of things, just that little leaflet on the side.
That's amazing though, because like that ability that you have to truly understand what that feels like is what will make you such a good coach and such a good PT. And the thing is like, you even saw in your journey, it's like when you had like Joe there to help give you some like confidence in certain things, people massively undervalue the difference it makes to have somebody in your corner, or at least just somebody there to be like, I know what this feels like, but do this, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It like makes such a huge difference to like what you're capable of being able to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think a lot of people feel like they're like too proud to admit that somebody else can help you, but especially when it comes to like fitness and training, like it's okay to admit that it's intimidating, because I think that everybody has felt intimidated by it. So many people have insecurities and start at that spot, like just like you proven, somebody who like wins shows has like started off in that place. So to be able to know that and to be able to relate to that makes a massive difference. And like you say, it's just why you're so passionate about it, which is incredible.
I think just like not having a background in any kind of sports as well. Like at school, like I joined in with things, but it wasn't something that I was very arty at school. Like I not sporty at all. So like when some of my clients join me and they're like, oh, I was really rubbish at PT, so my fitness level is going to be really bad. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like you can build on that. It's not, you don't have to have a background in sports. And like I think from like my bodybuilding journey side of things, it's like I've even more so like that passion and kind of like that proudness in myself, because I've literally come from like nothing and just built it over time. And I think if anything, like that just shows to anyone that it doesn't matter what background you had and whether you were sporty or not, you can still do anything you want to put your mind to. Like, but I remember specifically there when I started at Pure Gym. when I first started my PT, and this guy used to come in, and he was a competitive bodybuilder, but for me, I just sort of looked, there was just people in and out, and I suppose he was probably traveling. And he said to me, he's like, do you mind taking some like progress photos for me in the studio? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, he was like, I need to send them over to my coach. So I was like, okay, cool. And he said to me, he was like, oh, would you ever do bodybuilding? I was like, no, that's not for me. Like, I could never do that. And he like said about Lauren Simpson at the time. Like, she was a big figure at the time. And he was like, oh yeah, do you follow? I was like, yeah, but I could never look like that. I could never do that. And I just remember specifically always putting that in my mind, like having that, like, one of my friends used to ask me, oh, would you ever do it? No, could never do it. And that's what she said to me on the day of Heart of England. She was like, do you remember that day when you told me that you would never do it? I was like, yeah, I know. Now I'm here.
It's crazy how much it changes with like a little bit of self-belief and just having someone to guide you. What was it actually with you that kind of enabled you to take that jump, even just with like PT as well? Because I know you were saying you felt very like comfortable, you'd done the course, kind of, you did want to help and you had that passion, but it was also for your own knowledge. So I think a lot of people very easily like to look at people who are PTs or online coaches and think like, oh, they've got it easy or they've just built this, but it's scary like going into that. What was it that even kind of like mentally allowed you to like feel confident to go into taking that jump, and how did that transition kind of look for you?
I don't think it was confidence at the time, unfortunately. It's took me quite a while to build that up, but I was working alongside, so I was doing those shift works. And when you first start at Pure Gym, they ask you to do shifts as well as PT. So I was doing my shifts at my old job. I was doing shifts at Pure and then trying to pick up clients at the same time. And it just wasn't working for me. I was burning myself out. And for you to be available to other people and for them to like want you as a PT, you have to be like emotionally available as well. So it was at that point I was like, right, I'm either going to have to choose PT and just go with it and just take the bullet and go self-employed, or carry on doing what I hate. So obviously it was, no brainer, but I just needed that like little support. And Joe's been a massive support for me because he's always just believed in me. I think for my parents it was a little bit harder because they've come from a background of you stay in one job and you build yourself up. Like my dad's a manager at his place, so I think like he at first he was very sort of skeptical of like, oh, self-employment, you're gonna need to do all of these things. And it was very hard on me in terms of like, you should stay in one place and you should stay in one job and build yourself up. So it was quite difficult in that respect, but I just did it. And I started building like a really like good client base. When you work at Pure Gym, you're exposed to a lot of people, and they are pretty good as a company, like they expose you as well. So it built my confidence there, and doing classes and things like that. I remember, so I suffered quite badly like through the first few weeks of being there with the classes. I used to actually have like panic attacks before I went into work. Oh, wow. It was more of like anxiety attacks. I used to find myself in the bathroom at Joe's house and he was like, just calm down. He was like, you'll be okay. And it was more of the fact of like being and walking into a room of like 20 to 25 people staring at you, and you have to be the director of what they do. And I think a lot of people again like overlook that, as in they're nervous when they first go to a class, but actually the instructor could be quite nervous too. And I remember just being like so just a bag of nerves. But the more I did it, it's like anything, the more you do it, the more confident you get with it. And after that, I did actually start really enjoying doing the classes and meeting new people and meeting faces and stuff. So Pure Gym's been a good, like any kind of like commercial gym's really good for your first sort of, put for PT, because it just gets your confidence and gets you exposed.
No, that's awesome. It's really cool how you made that point about like, I mean, obviously it's not nice that you felt that way initially, but like how anything does feel like so daunting to like begin with, and you kind of get into it, because I think there's like in actual fact, the more that people that I speak to, I start to realize that there's very few people who do actually have that like natural confidence.
Yeah.
Like, you know how you see a lot of people, like you'd see like maybe PTs when you first started going to the gym, you think like, oh, they've just got that natural confidence. And there are some people that are like that. Like I speak to some people and they just like nothing scares them, and I'm like, good on you. But for like most people, like the first time you do anything, it never feels like easy, I think, no matter what. So it's just the more you do it, the better it gets.
I've never had that, unfortunately. It's something you have to learn over time. But yeah, I used to like walk in and be like, hi guys, like put like this fake sort of person on, like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And you have to wear like a little like microphone as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Way she can't hear my like breathing. But yeah, definitely something I've had to like learn over the years is just to and again, like that's like with the competing side of things, it is just every time, and I say this to my clients, like you can't expect yourself to grow as a person if you're not willing to just take that one tiny little step outside your comfort zone, because like, you know, it's a bit cliche because everyone says it, but that is where the wonderful things happen. Because if you keep yourself in this little bubble, you're just constantly stopping yourself from getting, you know, the experiences and learning and growing as people.
Yeah, exactly. Do you find that it's obviously from a career and business side of things have grown a lot with since you've competed, and how that's kind of grown you? I mean, in the experience, but also in like the knowledge of everything you've attained through that as well.
Yeah, I believe so. I think a lot of people followed my journey along because some people have known me from like years and years and knew that that's, you know, whoa, like she's doing this, that's crazy. She would have never done that. So I think it was quite nice for people to watch that journey and see everything kind of like almost like sort of blossoming, because it's like, you know, the person becomes a little bit more confident every time. And I think people have liked to follow along, and a lot of my clients have said, you know, it's really inspiring to watch you go through that, and you know, the dedication and the drive for it all. So I think in respect to that, a lot of people did follow along. But yeah, in my knowledge as well, obviously I'm not a bodybuilding coach, it's more like lifestyle, but I think it allows me to be a little bit more like with clients who are very, very nervous, you know, look, like you don't have to be this person before, like you can build on it and it will be okay.
Yeah. And I think it helps you to like put things into almost like more perspective for them, because everything also feels relative. So it's like getting on stage, like the way that feels to you could feel as scary as it does for like someone to even go into the gym. So it's like it always feels relative, and you just learn more and more from everything that you do. So like you say, it's setting that like example and that inspiration for your clients, and also just giving you like good exposure for your business as well, I suppose, like throughout the prep last year too.
Yeah, it was nice to like meet a lot of people as well, because I, you know, I am still, I would say, consider myself quite naive to the bodybuilding world, and like having Meg as a coach is really lovely because it's helped me sort of like make connections with people. But having that is allowed me to meet more people on like sort of my same sort of page as me, because I thought I was quite alone in it when I first started. So yeah, it's been quite nice in that respect as well.
Yeah. Do you want to talk through what it was like kind of reaching out to Meg and getting Meg?
Yeah. So initially it was the lockdown, like this second lockdown. So the first lockdown, I was still at my mum and dad's, and I had like, you know, the garden, and it was lovely. I had my brother. And then the second one, we'd moved into our first flat. So it was actually quite difficult. And I was still doing like, I was trying to keep everyone upbeat. I was doing like legs, bums and tums from home, and like Zoom, you know, like PTs and stuff like that. But it was really difficult in terms of like the equipment I had in the space. So I did actually I went from one extreme to the other, because I've always been so small, and coming from like a skinny fat background, building a little bit of muscle. And then during the second one, I started to gain quite a lot of body fat, because as you know, like all of us during lockdown, it was quite difficult, and I lost direction in like what I wanted to achieve, because we had no gyms. We went back to the gym and then couldn't go to the gym, so it was like I don't really know what I want to do now. So it was quite difficult in terms of that. So I'd followed Meg for ages, and I'd always watched her YouTube videos, and I kind of was just keeping an eye on like, you know, her client transformations and just sort of like what she was about. And I just love her personality and how she is with her clients, and just her, I remember watching her like YouTube where she started being a coach, and like how much she was doing, and I thought her work ethic and her drive is very on par with how I am with my stuff. So it was something I was kind of keeping an eye on, and I messaged her, and it was just like really off the whim, because me and Joe went for a walk, and I thought, I'm going to message a coach and just see, like, you know, just to get like a program and stuff. Like, I'm not going to do anything about it, I don't think. I just need someone just to like tell me what to do. So like I was giving my clients their bits and bobs, but I need someone just to go, you need to do this and do this, this and this, and eat this, this and this. Because I used to always do like, I still do with my clients, because I think it's very good for variety, but I did my fitness power and like tracking my calories and macros and things. But when you're at home, it's just like, oh, I just have this, and steps below. So I reached out to Meg, and it was on a lifestyle basis to start off with. There was literally no discussion really about like bodybuilding until I started to do like posing in my check-ins. So we first started, and she just gave me a meal plan. She was like, right, just do follow this, and we're doing some bits from home, getting my steps into a good place. And we just wanted to get me into a good position of following a program properly and having a coach for the first time, and checking in, and, you know, being like sending over my like check-ins and stuff, and being really like open and honest with someone else. So we did that for a few weeks, and then she started to say, like, you know, why don't you send me over some like poses? Oh, Loz, some of the photos of me when I first started posing, I had no idea what I was doing. I actually was looking at like people online, like bikini poses, and like, just after following Meg, I followed a few other bodybuilders, and I was just testing it out. I had obviously no experience at all with like bodybuilding poses and stuff like that, so they do look quite funny. But Meg said to me, bless her, she said, she's like, I think you have a really great shape. So that's where it first come off from. And then I don't really know, like, I can't really remember how it really transitioned from there, but I did actually start getting better at doing some of the basic poses. And she said, I think, like, you know, if it was a discussion and if you did want to compete, we would potentially look at figure, because I was quite like broad, like not massive, but I had a small waist and just a lower body.
Had the shape for it, really.
It was, I think that's what I think she said, like, you have a great shape for figure if you were to consider doing competing. So it was like a conversation. Then it started to like go from lifestyle to maybe you should like think about it, but still in the back of my head, this old Amy was like, no, like, you could never do that, you're being a wally for even thinking about it. But so yeah, we then spoke about like doing a fake like prep, just to see, because I hadn't actually gone through like a dieting phase before, because I've always been like, you need to build muscle. So it was nice to kind of go through that. So we did like a photo shoot, like a fake prep and photo shoot at the end. And I actually met one of my friends, Sophie Wells, through Meg as well. And she was doing the same. So it was really nice to have someone like to do it with, I suppose. So yeah, we did that, and I did like the dieting and the photo shoot at the end, and it went really well, and I really enjoyed it. And then that's when we had the conversation about, okay, right, so you can be disciplined, you can stay on track, you can like keep to a routine, you can diet, and you know, you have an okay shape, so we just build on that for next year and then think about competing. So that's where it first started and kind of like evolved from.
It's cool though, because it's like just a natural kind of progression in that way. And I think that's always a good way to take it, because there's always like two ends where like I think people are like, no, I'll never do it, or it's like, oh my god, I'm doing this and everything is bodybuilding now, I'm going to hop straight into a prep. I think it's kind of nice to just take that natural progression, with you saying there where Meg was like, just take some post shots, because when you've been training for a while, sometimes you don't even get to see your body in its like true light. And that's why, even if clients like don't want to compete, or they're at least just like interested in bodybuilding, like just see what you look like, because I think you'll be surprised when you see things. And like Meg said to you, you've actually got some like good shape and then you can just start to slowly see more and more of your potential in like steps that you feel comfortable with, like doing like the photo shoot prep and then being like, oh, I feel comfortable with this now. And then you can look back and be like, okay, I've actually done all of that already. And that just gives you so much more confidence to kind of understand what you're kind of capable of doing moving forwards.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's nice to have like, you know, over that period of time, it was like a year and a half. So I'd spent a long time like with Meg, and her understanding me as an individual, as a person, what I'm like, you know, what I'm like, what my issues are and things. And through that time, like we'd travel up and we did like a few of the posing like seminars. Meg and Kuba ran one of those, which was nice to like meet some of the other team. And I remember when there was a posing session and Lucy Freeman was in there as well.
And
I was stood next to her. I was like, I can't do this compete, she's amazing.
Lucy's massive.
Yeah, she was. And I was just there like I don't know if I can do this. But yeah, we did that. And like you know, just I did a few posing sessions with like a few people just to see how like you know, develop a little bit more confident in actual posing. But yeah, it was nice to spend a good chunk of time with Meg before we even thought about competing. So I think it's really good to have that time with your coach. And like, you know, my training was good. Like I'd always, from, you know, the period of time building up and educating myself on training, I went through like during those weird lockdown periods, I then did like a strength sort of training block where I was doing like really heavy squats, really heavy deadlifts, and I loved that side of things. And that's when like my brain started going, you know, you don't need to be small anymore, you don't need to be this small person, like you're strong. Like it felt good to be strong and work on that. So I think through that time it was nice to have like that little block, and then Meg go, right, okay, so we've got like a good foundation but form on some things. It was nice to like learn properly and like learn how to actually engage your like proper, like, you know, your muscles that you probably haven't felt before. So yeah, it was nice in that respect with training as well, like a little bit of shift in training too.
Yeah, and like Meg has a really, really good focus on training as well, which is such an important part of bodybuilding, like whether it be prep or in off season. I think that kind of enables you to focus more like on the process rather than your physique at different stages as well too, because I think no matter what, whether you're off season or whether you're in prep, you're going to have wobbles at points and get a bit lost. So
yeah, absolutely. I think yeah, like coming from that, what I was saying in that little period of time, like sometimes your strength overrides. You're like, oh, I'm not doing very well because I've one rep down, or like I can't do this or this weight anymore. But sometimes it's not about that. But
yeah, it makes a massive difference. Did you feel like having I mean, obviously having like that trust in Meg like makes a huge difference, because as any good coach is like, they'll be dead honest with you, and Meg is definitely very like honest. So like if you weren't like ready to do anything, she'd definitely tell you that you weren't ready. But I know for a fact as well that she would have also really helped you from like a self-belief side of things across that. Did that, having that relationship and reaching out to her and having somebody that you knew was going to be honest with you and was going to help guide you, that make a big difference in your self-belief or what you felt like you could do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. She's like, she'll probably say to you, and like she's put on one of her posts before, I'm probably the worst person for like not having that belief in myself. But then on the other side of things, I'm a very like, what's the word? Like I don't ask for help.
Yes.
So like I will just suffer in silence and just like, right, this is normal. Like just carry on, just keep doing it, because I don't want to let people down or like have that kind of embarrassment of asking someone for help. But that's where I've had to learn over time, because it conflicts the two, because I am really hardworking, but I also need to have that little bit of support as well. So having Meg, she can recognize when, you know, in my check-ins, even sometimes now, like, I've had a bit of a shit week. She's like, just message me during the week. If you're having a shit day, just tell me, just let me know. But because I'm like, no, I'm fine, I'll just get on with it. But sometimes you do just need to be a little bit more open and honest. And I think that's over time, and where we had that chunk of time together, it was nice to be a little bit more open with someone. And then, because Meg has a very great approach that works really well for me. She's not too soft and she's not too hard, but she will be hard when you need it and soft when you need it. And she won't just like blow smoke up your bum when, you know, all the time. She'll give it to you when you need that little bit of like, you can do this, and you need to, like, it's almost like you can do it, you're good at it, so get on with it.
Yeah.
But I need that, because I don't want someone to just always be like, you know, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. I do need someone to be like, you know, you're doing great, but you need to do this and do this and this to be able to get, you know, you say you want this, so that's what you need to do to get there. And Meg's very good at having that balance with that. So yeah, she's definitely helped me a little bit more. And I think just like, even on, you know, the build up to show, like some, you know, during prep, your brain's mashed anyway, but just having that someone to be like, look, you're fine, just get on with it. And Meg has a very good approach with, don't compare yourself to other people and like what they're looking like and stuff like that. Just carry on with what you can only better you. And she's very good at getting that across to you as well, which is nice.
It's so important to do that. Like, there's a lot of situations where coaches like say will either blow smoke, or like even in that time up until the show, when you're like worried about other people, they'll be like, you're gonna smash it, it's fine. It's like, you cannot tell a client to do like that's gonna happen, because
I don't think it's a great thing to do for people either, because then you put yourself up, and like, you know, you're not ready to come down potentially if that happens. But you just have to be like, you're doing best for you, and that's it. Like,
exactly. I think that kind of brings us around to like into your first prep actually, and into your first season. So what was it actually like when you obviously made the decision to go for that prep, and what was the kind of experience like for you up and down? I mean, we can touch on what happened like after the first show, but like definitely just leading into the first show, and like what the whole experience was like heading into it, and how you felt coming out of it as well.
Yeah, so after that photo shoot we did, then obviously we started to build things up a little bit, and we set dates. And I remember, do you remember when we came up and we trained and I saw you that time? Time when I was sort of like speaking to Meg, and we were going over shows and like what I should do, because she asked me the question with like, you know, are you wanting to stay natural, and what are you wanting to do? And at the time I was like, I'm still very like, hold my hands, I'm still very naive to a lot of things, but I was like, obviously I'm gonna stay natural, like I don't know what the difference is anyway. And she said, okay, so here's a few of the shows that you could do, and we spoke about like the different ones we could do. So then we booked UKDFBA and WNBF, and there was the two I was going to do last year. So once I booked those, it was all very exciting, you know, having my clients like behind me, backing me. And it was like, right, first day of prep. And I think when we started like counting it down and putting like my progress photos up and stuff, so I didn't really have an off season. It was more of just like growing and building my food up, just to make sure it was in a good place. And actually, like, my prep in itself was really like good. I wouldn't say I had like obviously it was hard and it's tough, but I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. But I don't know whether that's because I just enjoy it all anyway, so it didn't put like too much pressure on myself to like, you know, be a certain way. I just enjoyed the experience of it all, you know, going up and having posing sessions, seeing Meg, you know, the whole getting a bikini sorted and stuff. So it was all very exciting for me, like for the first few weeks. The last, I would say from like maybe 8 weeks out, started to get really, really tough. But not in an unenjoyable way. It was just really grindy, like just, you know, somewhere you've never been before, like in a mindset you've never been before. You're learning stuff about yourself that you didn't even know. So yeah, those points. But the first chunk of it was fine. Like, it was very just eased in, like, you know, Meg's very good with like, I'm like I said, very naive to like the different approaches and things. I know everyone has different experiences with their preps, but it was never too much, as long as you were feeding back to Meg as well, and, you know, letting her know how I was feeling. And she did the right thing from whatever I needed. So I don't think I had a bad experience. It was very enjoyable, my first prep, because I was on like just this massive high, like, oh my God, I'm actually doing it. Like everything that, like the little milestones, like I say, getting your bikini, like even just getting like the sparkly shoes, like Joe, bless him, he treated me he was like, I want you to have the sparkly ones on stage. So like, even just those little bits, like, oh my God, like this is so real, like it's becoming so real. So yeah, I really enjoyed my first prep. And
did it make quite a difference having like Joe obviously being super supportive throughout as well?
Yeah, definitely. He's such like, I'm gonna blow smoke up his bum now. But he's such a good egg, because he doesn't do he doesn't do bodybuilding. He's not a bodybuilder, and he sort of goes to the gym every so often, but he's had to educate himself alongside me educating myself about it all as well. So having him, and just him like being supportive of me, has been like, it's been amazing, because like if I needed to complete my steps, he'd go for a walk with me. You know, if I was at work late, like I work late sometimes doing PT, and he knew that I would be like wanting to come home and just go straight to bed, and I need to hit my meal. So look at my little meal plan on the side, cook my pasta for me. So it was done for when I was at home. So just like, I think just little bits like that someone can do for you, because like we all say, you know, prep is really, really hard, but we're putting it on ourselves, like we're doing it ourselves. Just having that one person just to understand a little bit has made a huge difference, because it was just nice to have him. And obviously it was very difficult for him. We had to like, I think you have to learn to communicate even better with someone who's not a bodybuilder in a relationship, because they're not going through it, and they don't really, they can't feel how you feel. But because he lives with me, and he was seeing me every day, and he was seeing me like, you know, tick off my steps, get on with what I needed to do, complete my meals, go training at whatever time I needed to go train, he could see how much I was dedicated to it, and how much I loved what I did, and how much I wanted to do well. So it was just a no-brainer for him to go, well, she's doing what she wants to do, so I'm just going to support her with that. And yeah, it's made a huge difference having him understands that from his point of view as well. It must have been really tricky. So definitely nice to have someone alongside with that.
It's obviously like difficult for like the two people, because you're both trying to understand different parts of it. But I think that as long as you're communicating, and especially as the athlete, the best thing that you can do when you have got a partner, relevant whether they're a bodybuilder or not, is just remind yourself that you're doing it because you want to do it. Because I think a lot of people like to take a bit of like a victim role when they prep, especially around the partner, and they're like, well, I'm tired and I'm struggling this, and it's like, well, you've chosen to do that, so you can't take that out on the other person. So it's just like the first time's always going to be a bit of an experience, but definitely having somebody who understands you, which, you know, in a healthy relationship will be there anyway, definitely does help. So it's nice that plays such a positive role for you as well.
Yeah, I think it definitely was difficult for him in terms of like, I think one point, bless him, he Googled like, is it normal for her to be so like slow and angry?
Oh, bless him.
And I think because the Google response was like, bodybuilders have to be with bodybuilders for it to work. So I think he got quite upset with that. But yeah, we just sat down, we just made sure that we were like, obviously, like I said, from a point of view, he could see what I was doing every day. So he knew it wasn't anything to do with like us. It was more so just, I'm in prep, yes, I'm doing it for me, but you have to communicate with that person as well. Like, even if you were a couple that both were prepping at the same time, I'm pretty sure that probably would be even tougher, because you're both angry, you're both tired, you're both like depleted. So yeah, I think just communication is a massive thing, like in anything for me. So it's nice to have him with me as well.
And how did that all kind of roll when you came round to obviously your first show? I mean, usually like a week or 2 weeks out is when you start to kind of feel that it's kind of happening, and maybe like changes are happening in terms of managing training drop off, and kind of getting you like dropping off fatigue and feeding up going into it. So how was like your head at that point? How are you feeling going into that whole experience?
Yeah, so it's all like a bit of a blur, really. That's why I wanted to do a bit more this year and like film a bit more of it. But the last few weeks were quite tough in terms of like steps, getting out and feeling quite like lightheaded with stuff. Like I remember one point we went for a walk and I just had to sit down. I just started crying on someone's wall outside their driveway, and Joe was like just talking along, and he was like, "Why are you listening to me?" And I was just sat down, and he was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No," so I can't do it. But after that, like I had a little refeed after that actually, so to pick me up a little bit. But towards like when it started to become like, well, you know, you get your hair done, you get your like your nails done and things like that, and the build up to that was really exciting. And the peak week was quite tough in terms of you've been like hammering everything for so long, and then it's like, oh yeah, no, deload training and less steps and just sit, and you know, all these rice cakes. I was so excited, like don't laugh at me, because I was there, caramel rice cakes. It was like, I don't think they look appetizing at all, but there was me like, you know, loving life, and a bit of dark chocolate as well. But yeah, that the first peak week was really good. Like the lead up to that was really good. Again, Joe was great. Like he was I was little princess passenger driving everywhere, because we had quite a few like drives everywhere whilst I was in prep. But yeah, really good. He helped me out quite a lot on like the night before. But what I did as well, like when I was saying about communication, is like most of my check-ins I would let him listen to as well, so that he would know like what Meg was asking of me, so that it wasn't just me going like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this. It was like, you know, Meg, this is what she said. And it was nice for him to kind of like be a part of that as well, and like be a part of the whole process. So yeah, it was a good experience really. Like I wouldn't say I had like I said, it wasn't a bad experience of prep, but our first show was the better one. And obviously with the outcome I had was just so like overwhelming, because it brought up so many emotions, and like, you know, things that I haven't felt for a long time in terms of like my self-confidence and things like that. So that was it, you know, my first show and first outcome was a brilliant experience. I couldn't have like asked for a better day really, the whole day. Even if I was saying to everyone, like, even if I hadn't have come first on that show, I had such a great day. Like, you know, there was so many people around, and the whole process of it all was so, you know, exciting and like nice. So even if I had come away like without anything, I would have just been in such a high anyway, for even just doing it, for even just stepping on the stage and coming out and having a smile and posing well as well as I could have at that point. But yeah, it was a brilliant lead up and brilliant day as well. And UKDFBA is such a great like federation. It was so lovely, like backstage, or really like informative. Like the guys who were doing like the tanning and stuff were great as well. So the whole sort of the day in itself was brilliant.
Yeah, so it's a really nice kind of like family feel federation, especially that show at the Heart of England. It's like Ben Hall is like a relatively like small venue, so like you obviously have where everyone's sat, and then the backstage bit is like just next to where the audience is and just where you go on stage. So I always feel like it feels like a very like relaxed kind of environment, because everyone's there and you don't really need to worry about rushing around to go backstage here or there. It's quite like chill for you to get from where you need to be to being on stage and everything.
Yeah, I did feel that actually, that I was only stressing at one point because I hadn't had a meal, so I had to like run out to the car and get all of these bits, and I think I had like jam or honey or something, and it was going everywhere. I was like, oh. But yeah, other than that, you know, because it was my first show, I had a lot of people there for me, which was so lovely. And I think I was just so in this zone, and I was, you know, seeing people that a part of like my group of people, my friends, that they're not really into bodybuilding or fitness at all. So when I was seeing, I was like, what are you doing here? Oh yeah, you're here for me. Like it's like, it was just such a weird, like crazy experience, and having everyone so close to me there as well was just so nice, because it was just, you had that support and everyone just believing in you regardless of what happened. So yeah, it was a lovely day, that one.
Yeah, and you brought a really, really like good look on that day too. You looked so confident when you came out. I know sometimes you don't always feel it on stage, but from my view, I was watching you and I was like, yeah, she looks awesome. And you won that show like literally by a country mile. I was sitting next to a lady called Maria who actually won the Masters figure British that year. She's so lovely. I don't know if you spoke to her. And she came out, she's like, oh my God, look at that girl, look at her shape. And I was like, yeah, she looks really good. I was like, that's Amy. I was like, shout for her.
I heard you a few times actually. It was so nice because when you go up there, it's so weird. You expect to walk out and see everyone.
Yeah.
But at my first one, it was so bright I couldn't see anyone. So I was like, oh, it's okay, like I can't see all these people. And then like when you really focus, there's all these just little heads and you're like, oh, just keep smiling. But I when I look back at the footage, it was like I was a complete different person because inside I was like shitting myself. And I walked out and my friends and Joe was like, you look so confident, you're so happy. My brother was there as well, and he's into bodybuilding too. And he was like, yeah, you look so good, like you're so confident in yourself. I don't know where that come from because it wasn't me, like it didn't feel like me. And even like after when I look back at it, I'm like, I don't even remember like that. I don't remember that being me and like that confidence where that come from. But I just think because I was so happy to be there and just enjoying myself. And that's kind of like how I just come out. I was like, do you know what? Yeah, it was great. And the girls backstage were like lovely as well. I had one of my friends there who was Meg's coach as well, Josie, and she comes second. And it was quite nice to have that experience with someone that you're already friendly with. So yeah, it was really nice. Like out of her, the other girls backstage were really nice as well. We were sort of like rooting for each other, like, we'll go girls, like, yeah, let's go. Like really confident because I think a lot of them it was their first time as well. So and it was just nice to like be with that group of like not like that upbeat friendly sort of experience, like you said, sort of like that family sort of community. It was really nice. So yeah, thank you. I didn't feel like I come out very confident, but I just enjoyed it. Like the smile was real. Like I didn't have to like when you're posing, the practice posing, it's like, remember to smile. I didn't have that in my head. I was just like, oh, I'm happy to be here. And it was just, but I remember like my legs were so shaky and like I could feel my bum cheeks shaking. Like, hopefully you can't see it.
Did it make quite a big difference though when you did come away from that show in terms of having a bit more like self-belief and confidence after that experience?
Yeah, definitely. I cried on, I don't know, a lot of videos you can see it. I started to cry, but I think because it just like clarified a lot of things for me. Like you, again, like I kind of said at the start of our podcast, that you can do anything you put your mind to, as long as if you want it bad enough and you want to do well at something, you can absolutely do it. And I think for me, like that proved it for me. And I think like you were saying about clients as well, like potential clients, I think I showed them that too. Like, I never in a million years thought I'd be stood up there, let alone coming away with like first place at a real, like, the other girls look brilliant. Like I wouldn't say it was like an easy win, but yeah, definitely coming away from that, you can do it. And like even Meg, like I messaged Meg, I said, Meg, I won. She goes, I know you, Wally, I've been watching, or I know you, sausage, or something like that. So I've now got updates of other people, but it was almost just that like, you can do it. Like it doesn't matter if you won or not, like you've done it. You did what you never thought you could be able to do. So yeah, it definitely gave me that little bit of like, right, now you've done it, what do you want to do from this? So that's obviously where the conversation started from. I've kind of mentioned it before, but it's like I finally felt like I fitted in somewhere. And I've never felt that before. Like I've never felt like I've never been part of I know it's a very solo sport and you work on yourself and you bring what you have built, but it is a very community vibe. And that's what I really love about the whole like community of bodybuilding. It's lovely, and especially within the natural like UKDFBA scene as well was really nice. And I think coming away from that, I was like, right, you're good at something, like you put this in, like you've proved to yourself that you can be good at something, so now you've got to work on it and you could do that continuous. So yeah, I think it was really nice. Like I said, a lot of emotions happened that day because it was just very overwhelming. There was a lot of people there for me. It was like that clarification of you've done well, you can do something now in the future and use it. It was just like, whoa, I was just mind boggled. I was like, whoa, what just happened?
And then do you want to kind of roll through what sort of happened from that point onwards? Because you obviously got your finals invite. You'd also already planned to do the WNBF Supernaturals, which was that was after the
it was
finals?
4 weeks after, and the UKDFBA was the final, sorry, was 5 weeks after. So obviously I hadn't planned for the finals because I again, before that happened, I didn't really have that belief in myself. I was like, no, like Meg had actually penciled it in to my timeline. So she had an inkling that it would have happened, but I was like, oh no, I'm just going to do these 2 shows. They're the only ones that I kind of knew about at the time anyway, like the natural ones. So I was due to do the WNBF 4 weeks after, and I learned like the whole new like routine for that, like not routine, sorry, but like different poses, because you're able to like
slightly different,
show your physique in different poses, which was nice. So we went through like I nailed like a new little sort of like pose, and it was straight back on it literally the day after the show, or like 2 days after. Had like a little bit more food, like just my normal meal plan food. So I cooked like bowls of oats. I was like, oh my god, oats. And I went to the gym like 2 days after, and I was just like straight on it. I had like this new like kind of empowered feeling of like, yes, you've done it, so let's crack on and like carry on what we need to do, learn new poses. And it was absolutely fine. Everything was going really great. And then it comes to peak week of that show. Prior to, I can't remember, it must have actually been on the peak week, or like maybe a couple of days before. So we were carving up, and Meg gave me some rice. Not gave me rice, but like gave me rice in my meal plan. So I was like, right, I'm just going to cook rice. Like I've never cooked, I know it sounds stupid. I've never cooked rice from scratch. I've always just had like the microwave packets. So it would be easier to bulk prep it, and then obviously I can divide it up. And I think what happened is that I didn't reheat the rice back up properly. And unfortunately I was very, very ill. I think it must have been like the Thursday of that week. The show was on the Sunday. Like between Wednesday and Thursday, I had that rice, felt really, really sick. I thought, oh no, it's just like a 24-hour bug, I'll be absolutely fine. Then I carried on as not. I messaged, obviously communication in a peak week is like a lot more anyway, like you're checking in daily. And I was saying to Meg like, oh, I'm really not right, like, you know, I'm panicking now, and I think I probably stressed myself out even more. But for some reason, you know, my mindset is like, you're fine, just crack on. So I went to the gym on the Friday, done like a little pump up session. Everything I was eating was like, without going into too much context, you obviously know, kind of straight back out. And I was like, no, like I'll be fine, like I'm sure it will just pass. Actually that Friday night, I think because I'd pushed my body past the point that it could actually handle, I haven't been that ill since I was like a kid, and I'm really, really, really shit with admitting defeat. Like I'm like, no, I'm honestly, I'm fine. Joe was quite worried, and I think it was in the middle of the night, it must have been like 3 o'clock in the morning. So literally led on the bathroom floor, like shivering but hot. And I just had a thought. I was like, you're not right, AIM, like just admit it. And so I messaged Meg. I was like, Meg, I'm really not in a great way, like I don't know what I'm going to do, because obviously we're meant to be traveling on the Saturday and then staying in like our accommodation and then competing on the Sunday. And I couldn't go like 2 minutes without going to the bathroom. So there was no way we were traveling. And that's when Meg said to me, she was like, I'd rather pay for everything you missed out on than you go and you like make yourself even worse. She said, if we have any kind of like opportunity to do the finals for UKDFBA, I'd rather you just focus on that, get better, and just sort yourself out. So the obviously Saturday come with like, I know it sounds silly that it was kind of heartbreaking, but I think for me it was almost like everyone was following along with your journey. So like there was a lot of people that were like expecting you to compete again, and I was having people message me like, good luck this weekend, like you'll do great, like I'm sure get the win again. And that puts so, as much as it's so lovely, it puts so much pressure on you. And there's me led on the bathroom floor like, I'm not going anywhere. I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was honestly in such a bad way. And I ended up on this, it must have been a Sunday morning when I was meant to be competing. I ended up having to call the hospital, and she was like, we need to get you in and like check you over. So ironically, the day I was actually meant to be competing, I was led getting checked over in the hospital. But
Wow.
they done blood tests and stuff and said it was I can't say this word, but gastroenteritis.
Yeah.
So it ended up with that somehow. He was like, have you been abroad lately? I was like, no. It's like, yeah, you've got this. And like my my protein levels were really, really, really high. Yeah, they just sent me away, and I generally thought, I was like, I'm done now, like that's gonna be it, like I'm not gonna be able to do the finals, I'm not in a great way. So yeah, that whole week after that Sunday, sent Meg my like blood test results, and she said like everything else looks pretty normal considering you're on prep. Like I think the hospital were worried because my blood pressure was really low, like everything was like really low, and they're like, oh my god, we've got to rush this girl in. I'm like, honestly, I'm fine, I'm just meant to be competing right now.
Been dieting for like 30 weeks.
Yeah, the nurse was like, you know, because you're really veiny, the nurse was like, oh, lovely veins. I was like, yeah. So yeah, I got sent home, and then we just took the week as we could. Like I was still doing what I could, but like I still was really poorly up till show day, really, if I'm honest with you.
I remember seeing you in the bathroom, and I was like, how are you? Okay, because I remember messaging you even like throughout the week because I'd seen that you gotten poorly, and you were like, yeah, I've made it, but I'm not great. And I think you're so like, you have every right to say that you were like just like kind of like heartbroken, because you've worked so hard to get to that point, and then it's not like a performance-based sport where it's like, oh cool, like you make it to the finish line, you can do it on the day, cool. Like if you're sick, it affects your physique, and like that's annoying because all the work that you put in, like it's not necessarily like your best look or everything that you've kind of worked through over that time, and it is like frustrating. But the benefit is that, you know, it's not like we only have one ever show day we can do, and you know, you can do it again, which is why you've kind of got this year. But sorry, I interrupted you a little bit there. Do you want to go on about how the finals was and kind of how you felt coming out of that too?
Right. So yeah, it was like you were saying, really, like your physique really does take like a punch from that, and like I just ended up looking like just a piece of string cheese.
You didn't look like string cheese, but you obviously you carry like a flatter look, and you just look tired.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but the reason why I wanted to do the finals is because I just felt like I wanted to have like a good end to my prep, and almost just like a little celebration to the end of my prep, and just enjoy the day. I knew there'd be like a lot of great people there, and just to meet them and just go through the day again and just enjoy it. But I knew that like that morning I cried because I still wasn't very well, and I was still having to like go to the loo quite often, and I thought, I don't want to like embarrass myself on stage, right? Am I meant to be doing this? So but Joe was very supportive, and we did get like a few carbs down, and they stayed down, and I've done my pump up, and like again, like just enjoyed the day as much as possible. But I could feel it in my belly, like I couldn't keep my like midsection tight because I just felt so sick. But I went out and, you know, did my individual routine, but it was really hard for me to like, I was happy to be there, don't get me wrong. It was hard for me to keep everything tensed and like keep my midsection tight, because I just was like, just felt so strange in a way. So I'm obviously so proud of myself for still coming away with like a 4th place when there was 11 girls there and everyone looked so incredible. And I still come away from that and thought, but it took me a while to come away from that and feel proud of myself, because at the time I thought, you've let yourself down, you've embarrassed yourself, like why did you even come? I didn't go for that reason. I didn't go to, you know, place and do really well. I knew I wasn't in the best places. I knew I didn't feel great. I went to just, you know, enjoy that day and say, this is the end of my prep. I was invited. Joe said as well, it's almost like, you know, you've been invited to finals, like it's nice to like want to be able to go, like you have that invite to go. So I just wanted to go and sort of show my face and just be there for the day. And like I said, still met a lot of people. A lot of people were a bit surprised that I was there, because I think a lot of the girls from like the heart of England were following along for the rest of my journey. Like, what are you doing? Wow, you're here. Like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
And it was like the result that you got was against like obviously Grace won, who was a previous British champ, and Meg, who came 3rd, had won like the Southern. Emma had come over from Ireland, and then you took the spot after that, which was like, it was still like
I was still so proud of myself. And like, you know, it was nice to be against girls who had previously done really well, just to see how you fit. And I think sometimes it's not about, like, I was listening to like the other girls podcast that you're doing for yourself, you know, sometimes you feel disappointed in yourself at the time, but actually in the grand scheme of things, it's nice to just see what you look like against those other girls, so that you can know what you're going to need to work on and build on. It's not, you know, you're not going to win every time. And I think it's difficult. I think Ella was saying, actually, it's difficult, like when you've won a show, that's all you know. Like, you don't know any different now. So like, then to come forth, it was like, oh, maybe I'm not very good. It's like, no, like you are, and you're not very well, actually. So be proud of yourself and be proud of where you've come from. And yeah, it was nice just to have that as kind of like the end of my first prep, and just to enjoy myself. And really strangely, we went and ate, you know, a pizza afterwards, and I was fine.
Probably like a massive stress drop off as well.
Yeah, it was mad. He messaged me, like replied to one of my stories like 2 days later. He was like, you look so different to how you did on your finals. I was like, yeah, because I'm full of carbs now.
I'm not violently ill.
Yeah.
I actually feel okay.
I feel great now. But yeah, I still really enjoyed the day, and it was really nice to like finish on that. And like I said, just have like a little bit of a celebration at the end of your prep. You've worked so hard for a very long time, so it's nice just to not end my prep in like being super sick. Like I still showed up, I still did what I could on that day. And yeah,
exactly. And is that a big reason why you guys kind of have decided to go again into a prep this year, because of kind of the way that things like finished at the end of last year too?
Yeah, it was along those lines. So one of which was like, when Meg messaged me, she was like, to come forth in like an international, you know, finals is brilliant, and I think you found something that you're really good at. And I was like, you know, I agree, I really enjoyed it. It was, you know, it was a kind of a thing to see whether I'd enjoy competing, and whether it would be something I wanted to carry on with. And you know, that is now a yes. But it was also in terms of like, Meg said, you know, we were going to have this year off, but because of how that ended, that, you know, at the end of that year, I just wanted to see how I could do with, hopefully, fingers crossed, not getting poorly again, and seeing what I can bring with like my full potential, and seeing how I place there, and then going from there. So I have a bit more of a truer representation of like how I fit within the other girls, with being like a, you know, a better me in like physically. So yeah, and I enjoy it. So it was like, you know, I wanted to log a little bit more of this year, and like, you know, capture a little bit more of the moments of it as well, because all I have really is just photos and my check-in photos. So because I was a bit more in the moment. But yeah, so I'm excited to fingers crossed not get very poorly again this year, and see.
Maybe just don't cook bulk
no rice. No rice this year, just rice cakes, I reckon. We'll stick to those instead. So we've got no.
Are you feeling like even mentally just a little bit better going into this prep, because you know you don't have that kind of like imposter syndrome or like newbie kind of like worry? Do you feel a bit more confident heading into it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think more confident in myself, like in the capabilities of myself. You know, it's not like, I think the first one was like, are you meant to be here? Are you going to fit in? Like, you know, are you even meant to be doing this? So that feeling is now gone, but it's now the added pressure of like, I think because you've had that successful first time, like your first ever time. And I think like, again, it's something to like maybe think about and consider. Like, it's so amazing to come away with that, but also it's more difficult, because then you have, no one has this expectation on me. It is from myself, but I just think, I feel as if people are like, oh, you know, like if you don't win, you're rubbish. So, but it's not that at all. It's your own like pressure on yourself, because like I say, you haven't really known any different, and it does make it difficult. And I don't mean that in like a, you know, like I suppose like a big-headed way. It's just hard to know what's gonna happen. Again, everyone always says it's down to the day, judges, people, etc., etc. Obviously we all do this because there's part of us that, you know, would like to do well, But again, I'm not expecting too much of myself this year. I more so want to just see how I line up against people again, and then just go from there, because it's not something I'm just gonna, off a whim, and 2 years in, I'm like, oh yeah, I love it. So I want to continue doing it and see where I can improve, what improvements I need to make, from that, because I know there's always people coming up to it, and there's some brilliant girls and brilliant physiques around. So it's just doing you and seeing what you can do with your own physique, really, and the continued improvement on yourself.
Yeah. And like you say, every season, every show is always going to be different. But the one thing that you can always go in confidently with, especially for yourself this year, is that you'll not only be presenting your best, but you'll also be presenting an improved look as well. So it's always a bit of like for lack of a better word, like a bit of a head fuck when you like go into a show, and like you see people sometimes go into shows and they get like different results from show to show, even though they're better. And it's just like, that's just bodybuilding. And it's like, sometimes putting those things into perspective helps. But as long as you go into the season knowing that like you have improved, like you've made some great improvements even over the short off season that you've had, you carrying so much more experience, like the outcome is just, it's undoubtedly going to be better, and hopefully something that you can also enjoy a little bit more as well this year, and kind of be a little bit more present. I mean, I think show days always feel like a bit of a whirlwind, but hopefully you will be able to be a little bit more present within it as well.
Yeah, Han's making a really good like approach to it this year, and I'm gonna do the same, instead of like count, because I think your first one you sort of count down anyway, so you're so excited for it. But I think this prep, I do feel mentally better, but because I know what's coming, like is tougher. Like the second time around, you know what's going to happen. So I'd rather not go, oh, I'm like 10 weeks out, 8 weeks out, 7 weeks out. I'll just write like I'm on week 2 now, and week 2's gone fine. So week 3, just day by day. And I think that's a better approach to have. And I've always had that approach anyway. I say it to my clients, just focus on improving yourself that little bit every single day. Maybe you've drunk more water this today, like maybe you've done more steps, just focus on like the day-to-day. And I think that's more enjoyable anyway. You're not wasting your time away, and just like this whole process, it's a process. It's not just start prep, end prep, because that is 6 months really, and like sometimes like longer for some people, and that's a long time to just like wish away. So I just want to enjoy every day, every week, and just see. But like you said, like I've come away, had a little bit of an off season, got more improved knowledge about how to train. Like I could like feel more muscle engagement, of being able to grow areas that I hadn't maybe lapped in before. So what I'm bringing this year is better than me last year. And whether that's, whether that plays well or not, I'm not going to be disappointed in myself about it, or, upset. It's like, okay, right, this is where I placed this year. And like, what can I carry on doing, like moving forwards? So it's like, it's the whole part of it. It's not just one thing, is it?
Are you planning on doing a WNBF show this year, given that you didn't get to do one last year?
No, not this year. I don't know why. I think like I would just like to focus on the UKDFBA again. I don't know. I've only got one show booked, and I haven't like put anything up yet, but I don't know what other ones I'd like to do just yet, because I don't want to just do shows for the sake of it. But I don't. It's difficult because I'm not sure what mindset I'm in, because I want to be able to do well, but I don't want to, because I was listening to like I think it was yours and Hannah's about like how PCA, because I was mainly thinking about PCA, but PCA look for like a different, especially if you're doing like toned figure, and so I don't want to not do well in a show that I would like to do well in, because I've done another one. So it
does make it a little bit easier when you kind of shoot for like one specific fed, especially when you know that you like that as well. Like you obviously had a really good experience with UKDFBA, so it kind of makes sense. I just thought I'd ask.
No, it's because I'm not, like you said, I've only ever done UKDFBA, so it's like I'm not too sure which other ones that I would enjoy doing. So it's just I just still haven't put my finger on which ones I wanted to do just yet, but I need to work on posing as well still.
Oh, well, either way, though, I really, really look forward to seeing you on stage this year. As you know, I'll always be at as many of the shows that I can be to. So I look forward to cheering you on. But all in all, just thank you so much for coming on and joining me today. And it's been so nice for me to just hear a little bit more about your background story, one that I know so many people will love to hear about, and to just give that story of self-belief and just like confidence and believing in yourself is something that I don't think ever gets old, and is something that so many people need to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that, and for also giving us the insights on last year and everything as well. Do you want to just share with people where they can find you on Instagram if they want to kind of follow you or follow your process?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Really appreciate your time. And my Instagram is AGPT_coaching. And I think it's the same for YouTube as well, if you did want to watch that. Just me being silly. But yeah, that's where you can find me on there.
Amazing. Thank you. Everyone, definitely please make sure to go and check Amy out on there. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening. As always, if you're listening on YouTube, if you can like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, if you can follow and rate the podcast as well, that would be amazing, as it does really, really help. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to another episode, guys. And I'll be back again next week.